The only people for me are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing but burn, 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 like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars, and in the middle you see the blue centerlight pop and everybody goes, ah. Jack Kerouac, On the Road. There are plenty of reviews of Jack Kerouac's On the Road. I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience. I was browsing through Ken Sanders' bookstore in downtown Salt Lake. Make sure you go out and support your local independent bookstores, please. I saw On the Road in some pile, and I decided to buy it. So I bought it, took it home, and started reading it. Instantly, I was hooked. This book is amazing. The descriptions of the people, the jazz music, the American landscapes, and the girls. It'll make you feel all sorts of feelings. On the Road, the protagonist is Sal Paradise, a guy from New Jersey recently broken up from his wife. It also follows the character Dean Moriarty, a guy who fancies many women and probably has many wives. The book follows their travels from coast to coast, from New Jersey to Denver to San Francisco to back to New York, and even all the way down to Mexico. A lot happens in this book, but my favorite parts were when Sal is traveling alone. Probably because I'm sort of a loner myself and I've done lots of solo traveling. The party scenes were cool, Sal's friends were entertaining, although Dean, he annoyed the shit out of me. He was always talking and cutting off Sal. I respect him, he lived in the moment, but often I just wanted to tell him to shut the fuck up and maybe let someone else talk. But the events when Sal is by himself, just thinking and meeting new people were my favorite parts. There's a part where he falls in love, then out of love, then back in love with a Mexican girl on a bus from San Francisco to LA. He spends some time with her and her family in California, and then he leaves, and we never see her again. She vanishes, never reappears, and Sal moves on with his travels and his life. I had bought my ticket and was waiting for the LA bus when all of a sudden I saw the cutest little Mexican girl in slacks come cutting across my sight. She was in one of the buses that had just pulled in with a big sigh of air brakes. It was discharging passengers for a rest stop. Her breasts stuck out straight and true. Her little flanks looked delicious. Her hair was long and lustrous black, and her eyes were great big blue things with timidities inside. I wish I was on her bus. A pain stabbed my heart, as it did every time I saw a girl I loved who was going the opposite direction in this too big world. The announcer called the LA bus. I picked up my bag and got on, and who should be sitting there alone but the Mexican girl. I dropped right opposite her and began scheming right off. I was so lonely, so sad, so tired, so quivering, so broken, so beat, that I got up my courage, the courage necessary to approach a strange girl, and acted. Even then, I spent 5 minutes beating my thighs in the dark as the bus rolled down the road. You gotta or you'll die, damn fool, talk to her. What's wrong with you? Aren't you tired enough of yourself by now? And before I knew what I was doing, I leaned across the aisle to her. She was trying to sleep on the seat and said, "Miss, would you like to use my raincoat for a pillow?" So that's the beginning when he meets this Mexican girl, and he talks to her and he falls in love. But when they get to LA, he starts to think, maybe she's a hustler. Maybe she's hustling me and she's going to take me back to some hotel. And there's going to be someone waiting there. Maybe she's going to rob me. So then they have an argument, but they end up making up. But I love that description's how he meets the Mexican girl. Sal seems to fall in love a lot, but he never ruminates on it too much. Sal and all his pals, they're masters of living in the moment. I would love to live how Sal and Dean live, but then again, after a day, I would probably just want a shower and a toothbrush. The book is said to be the crown jewel of the Beat generation. It honestly made me want to hit the road. I love a road trip, and I've been known to take a few spontaneous trips in the past, but nothing quite as spontaneous or long as Sal's trip. Last week, I reviewed Bruce Springsteen's autobiography, Born to Run, and I have to say, there are some similarities between Bruce Springsteen, Sal, and Dean. They are always on the run, they love cars, they fall in and out of love quickly, and they live in the moment. Bruce Springsteen talks about it, and I think Sal lives it, where sometimes you'll be walking down the street and you'll see a pretty girl, and then all of a sudden you fantasize about the whole life you have together with that girl. You fall in love with her, you imagine your marriage, you imagine your kids and your house with your white picket fence, and then she walks past you, and just like that, it's gone. Springsteen talks about once driving from New Jersey to California on a whim. He felt like shit in New Jersey, so that's why he was leaving. Only when he got to California, he realized he still felt like shit. So he wanted to go back. He wanted to get in his car, turn around, and drive another 3,000 miles all the way back to New Jersey. He realized that he had to figure something out about himself, or else he would probably still be on the endless loop of traveling from coast to coast, trying to be happy. Sal and Dean never really figured that out. They never stopped moving. Well, maybe that's debatable. Maybe Sal stops, but I doubt Dean ever does. If you're considering this book, I would say read it as soon as you can. It lives up to the hype. The writing is excellent. The character is entertaining and different. And when I finished, I put it down, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. I mentioned how Sal seems to fall in love with every pretty girl he sees. Here's a part of the book towards the end that I really liked. It was time for us to move on. We took a bus to Detroit. Our money was now running quite low. We lugged our wretched baggage through the station. By now, Dean's thumb bandage was almost as black as coal and all unrolled. We were both as miserable looking as anybody could be after all the things we'd done. Exhausted. Dean fell asleep in the bus that roared across the state of Michigan. I took up a conversation with a gorgeous country girl wearing a low-cut cotton blouse that displayed the beautiful suntan on her breast tops. She was dull. She spoke of evenings in the country making popcorn on the porch. Once this would have gladdened my heart, but because her heart was not glad when she said it, I knew there was nothing in it but the idea of what one should do. And what else do you do for fun? I tried to bring up boyfriends and sex. Her great dark eyes surveyed me with emptiness and a kind of chagrin that reached back generations and generations in her blood from not having done what was crying to be done. Whatever it was, and everybody knows what it was. What do you want out of life? I wanted to take her and wring it out of her. She didn't have the slightest idea what she wanted. She mumbled of jobs, movies, going to her grandmother's for the summer, wishing she could go to New York and visit the Roxy, what kind of outfit she would wear, something like the one she wore last Easter, white bonnet, roses, rose pumps, and lavender garbardine coat. What do you do on Sunday afternoons? I asked. She sat on her porch. The boys went by on bicycles and stopped to chat. She read the funny papers. She reclined on the hammock. What do you do on a warm summer night? She sat on the porch. She watched the cars on the road. She and her mother made popcorn. What does your father do on a warm summer's night? He works. He has an all-night shift at the boiler factory. He spent his whole life supporting a woman and her outpoppings and no credit or adoration. What does your brother do on a summer's night? He rides around on his bicycle. He hangs out in front of the soda fountain. What is he aching to do? What are we all aching to do? What do we want? She didn't know. She yawned. She was sleepy. It was too much. Nobody could tell. Nobody would ever tell. It was all over. She was 18 and most lovely and lost. So I love that part where he says, I wanted to take her and wring it out of her. She didn't have the slightest idea what she wanted. She mumbled of jobs, movies, going to her grandmother's for the summer. So all those things Sal basically rejected. He didn't live that way. He lived a completely different way. Now Sal and Dean, they might think they have it figured out. But towards the end of the book, I think they learn that they don't. You know, they're equal to her. They really don't know what they want in life. But I think when they're living in the moment, maybe they feel that way, and that's all that matters. That was one of my favorite parts of the book, because Sal thinks he's doing what he wants. He thinks he's living life to the fullest, more so than this girl. Is he really? Maybe. But maybe not. Maybe he's just like her. Maybe he doesn't know what he wants either. So that's my review of On the Road. Let me know what you thought. If you found this video helpful, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos of books, hit that subscribe button.